Are you going to do the same thing today you did yesterday and expect a different result? Change what you think, change what you do, and tomorrow will be different from today. You know why it's so simple for me? Because I have a lot of experience. You can only change your tomorrows by changing yourself today. Welcome to another edition of Mark's Inspiration, the Power is Within podcast. Had a couple of last-minute technical difficulties in this modern technological world. Anyway, Frank, my man, got it ironed out. Our special guest tonight is John Fitch, former MMA welterweight world champion, and we are glad to have him tonight. Bring him on, would you? Hey, John, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on?
Oh man, we I didn't get your message. I'm thinking, well, he's not in the waiting room. We better see what's going on.
Yeah,
So I told go and get my phone.
I hit the link, so
yeah, I don't know what the deal was. Anyway, Frank got it straightened out. Well, we're glad you're here, man. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
I got beat up by a few guys who were world champs, but I never really got to talk to any. So tell us about yourself. What are you doing? What do you got going on? Or tell us about your fighting career and then what you got going on now, if you would.
Well, yeah, I fought almost 20 years, I guess. Kind of stumbled into it. I wrestled, and it wasn't really a thing growing up, so it wasn't really something I was looking forward to. I just always knew that I wanted to be a professional athlete. I worked from childhood into my senior year of high school to be a football player. I wanted to play football, but I wrestled too because I was competitive and I liked to win, and I was good at wrestling. So when it came time to decide where to go to school to play football, maybe I realized that I just wasn't big enough or fast enough to go anywhere good and play. So I decided to wrestle instead because I could still look on to Big Ten teams and still chase championships that way.
Right.
And while I was at Purdue, we had a coach there, assistant coach Tom Erickson, who was number 2 on the Olympic ladder for heavyweights freestyle under was it Bruce Baumgartner for like 13 years, and he had been fighting at Pride, and he brought guys into Purdue to work out with and train with and train himself. And when those guys came into town, I didn't do so bad against them. So I was like, this may be something I could do. So I kind of pivoted towards the end of college. I did senior year. I started thinking about it, and I did a year of grad school, and I started teaching and started fighting when I was doing that, and found my way out to California, and had a good career, had a fun career, had a lot of battles inside and outside of the cage. I'm still entrenched in a $1.2 billion class action lawsuit against the UFC for antitrust violations. They are a monopoly, and there's no free trade in this industry.
Yeah, I found out too. And the boxing game is kind of a dirty game too.
The boxing is as dirty as boxing is. It's never as bad as MMA is today, right? Because boxing, since the late 1800s, has not been allowed to control the title and exclusive contracts. And when you control the title and exclusive contracts, you end up monopolizing everything. Because if you have that number 1 title, no other promoters can promote. No other promoters can compete. There's no other room for other promoters in the industry.
Yeah.
Because that's what's happening right now with MMA. If you're a champion of Welter or some other promotion, you have to jump and leave shit and go to UFC in order to make your most amount of money. You're not going to make UFC money anywhere else.
Right.
It's just not possible. And on top of that, if you were a billionaire and you decided you just want to promote some fights, well, now you're limited to cast out fighters or fighters who are never in the top 10 because all the top guys are going to go to the UFC no matter what you're doing or how good of a promoter you are.
Yeah. Huh. I didn't know that. I didn't know how. I watch it once in a while, but I don't keep up with it like I used to boxing. So I'm really
I mean, there's a lot of it is about just fighter pay and what these guys go through and what they risk in return and how they're treated by the promotions. But like, it's deeper than that. When you have a monopoly, it's nobody can compete evenly. Like the promoters are locked out.
Yeah.
It's currently what I'm doing now is I'm doing a lot of teaching and instructing.
Yeah.
I'm 44. I'm not able to make it through a whole training camp and keep competing. I would love to. I would love to grapple. And, I was thinking about getting into grappling competitions for a little bit, and I put in a few weeks of work, and body's just beat up. So I need to preserve myself so I can teach. And I've been doing a lot of teaching, seminars, small groups, private lessons. But then I've also been doing a lot of consultations and stuff online, which really saves the body.
I know you said today that you were helping out the police department. I watched Rule Zero. You're training them, and you said you were amazed at what their lack of skills or that they have. What you see?
There's virtually no skill development for those police officers. They're required like maybe twice a year to go to a class, a few hours of class. You'll get some old school cops who are embedded in their old school ways of thinking and just don't seem to be open to new methods that work better. And you have the guys who are like, oh, well, that situation's never happened to me, so it's pointless to ever train or prepare for it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of roadblocks in there, but I just feel like they're purposely trying to make the police forces weak and make people not like them. Like they don't give them the tools they need to do a good job.
What about the fitness of the officers? I mean, I know around here
that's a big thing too. If they can't even get through like an hour-long training session, like if they can't run, if they can't grapple, if they're weak, like it's not going to happen. We had one female officer in the mix, and she's smaller. So for a smaller officer like that, for her to not know anything, like that's a really bad situation. Yeah. And we're not saying that now that she knows the skills that she's going to beat the crap out of all the guys that she arrests. Right. That's not what's going to happen. Is they're not alone. They work with partners. So what she needs to do is be able to make the fight as long and drawn out and slow it down and control it as possible, which is more than doable. Even if you're a 120-pound woman against a 220-pound man, if you know positioning, head positioning, elbow control, certain things like that, you can slow things down. You can prevent yourself from getting hurt, and it gives your time, your backup time to get to you.
Yeah. Well, I noticed that most of the policemen here, they're not very good physical fitness, and you talk about training them. It's my belief that, and they have to practice that because you have to get to where you can do it. When you're in the ring, you learn how to, like if someone hits you and knocks the wind out of you, you learn how to fight through that until you get your wind back. Or if you get hit and you're kind of like out on your feet, you got to you can do it. You can get to where the other guy doesn't know it, but it takes time for you to get your senses back. But
and that's one of, you mentioned it, like you getting hit and like fighting through it. That's one of the things that they need, but it's difficult because injuries are a big issue, and that's one of the reasons why they steer away from training these officers a lot of times. It's a bureaucratic screw job, really, because they're like, oh well, the officers could get hurt, and then that means we have to pay insurance premiums, and we got to pay the cops off the street for a little while because he's injured and getting better. There are ways to train these guys and get them into the reps without getting those injuries, but they need to understand that taking the time and effort and possible risk of the injury to the officer is much cheaper than paying out potential, battery or potential, the cop did too much and now the city's got to pay $2 million because they broke a kid's arm because they didn't apply something right.
Well, they used to have a thing here called guns and hoses where the policeman and the fireman would fight. I don't know if they still do that or not because I trained a couple of policemen. It was a long time ago, and they'd have like 3 2-minute rounds. They'd have an exhibition at the end of the year. And so that
Mm-hmm.
would some of them in pretty good shape. But I don't even know. Yeah, the insurance and the liability of everything just becomes crazy to where you can't hardly do things like that anymore. So I'm not sure if they still do that or not.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, especially when everything's pushed towards personal and individual training. So that was one of the things the guys had talked about. Some of the cops actually do jiu-jitsu. They're blue belts or maybe purple belts. They've been in jiu-jitsu for a while. And they were commenting on how they have more fireman friends who train than police officer friends.
Really? Huh. Well, now, would you say if a person was confronted on the street, would he be better if he tried to stay on his feet, or would he be better?
Leave.
Leave.
You have no business fighting anybody on the street. You want to fight people, go to a gym.
If you can't leave.
If you're in striking range, you're far enough to get away.
Yeah, you can run.
Yep. So that's the heavy emphasis I put on my teaching with people is just leave, back away. I mean, don't necessarily run away, but back away, take an angle, put stuff in between you and them, create a barrier, create a fence or a shield. There's a famous old bouncer from England, and he came up with the terminology, put up a fence in front of you. And it's really smart. You know, you're basically just putting something in front of you because if that person makes a move on you, they have to jump that fence. They have to make a big commitment to get there, and that gives you the ability to defend yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, your job in self-defense is to get away without being hurt.
Yeah.
I do a series of videos I call Learn to Fight on my YouTube, and basically just break down fights that shouldn't have happened or while they're stupid for doing the fight there. You know, people are in a bar, everybody's having a good time. Now they're throwing punches. People get sucker punched. People get, grabbed from behind. Bouncers get involved. And when you're drunk, man, you're so easy to knock out and you're just flopping all over the place anyways. It's a bad idea.
Yeah, last fight when I was drunk, I got blindsided by this guy who was an MP. He hit me 4 or 5 times. I finally got my balance to see who was hitting me because I was arguing with the guy in front of me. And then I was so drunk, I realized when I was trying to hit him, I had to grab him and pull him to me just so I could punch. Didn't work out too well. And then somebody broke it up, and he reached over and sucker punched me and cut my eye open. But yeah, it's not a good idea to drink and fight. You think you're pretty tough, but
you're not. Like, we're so frail and fragile.
Yeah.
Like go into a gym. Like if you really want to fight, if you really want to push yourself, you really want to be a tough guy, go into a controlled environment where there are actual killers around you.
Yeah.
Okay. Like
I was a tough guy until I started boxing and started working out with the pros, and some of these guys were ranked like #1 amateur in the nation. They used to beat the crap out of me. And I'll tell you, when you go into the gym, as you probably know, when I trained regular like that, I had no desire. You could come up and get in my face and call me any number of names.
Turn the noise down.
Care. Yeah, I just wouldn't care.
Ed Lattimore on my show, and we were talking about fighting and the benefits of knowing how to fight, even though you're not a professional or whatever. But like he mentioned that it helps turn the noise down. Right? So like you become much calmer when you've been in some shit, when you've been hit in the mouth, when you've had to fight your way out of bad positions, like you're not so worried about the people around you. You size them up, you understand what a person a certain size is probably capable of. And then the biggest thing is when you finally put hands on somebody, when you finally grab hold of somebody, because I emphasize, create space and get away. But if they're in the fight and they're pressing you and they're not going to let you get away, then you close the distance. So you're either all the way in or you're all the way out. Yeah. When you go all the way in, you put hands on them, you clinch with them, you feel pretty quickly whether or not that person has any knowledge of hand fighting and positioning at all. It becomes very clear to you. He could be the biggest, strongest, most jack-looking dude, but you grab his elbow and he doesn't know how to react. It becomes, okay, this is going to be really easy to handle this person.
Yeah, I know if you got in on me as far as that goes, I don't know anything about infighting when it comes to wrestling. I know how to box, I know how to fight, and I still like to get in and work out with the boys because I know people would think this is crazy, but you probably understand. I like to get punched around a little bit because it keeps
you alive.
Yeah, it keeps my attitude in the right spot too. So It's good. I think it's good for everybody to get punched a few times.
Yeah. Get punched a little bit, do some jiu-jitsu, get choked. Just like feeling somebody's body weight as they like sprawl on you and like work on pulling an arm out or something. It's different, man. Like if you haven't been on the ground or rolled around with anybody in a long time,
I tell you, I
it's
see
a different feeling.
UFC to see them. I would rather get knocked out than have one of you guys get me one of those positions where I don't know what they're called. Yeah, it's like I see those and I'm like, man, just what 3 seconds or a couple seconds. If you don't tap out quick enough, you can ruin your arm for the rest of your life, right or not? Pulling it out.
Yeah, if they get the right hit the right ligament, hit the right thing. We got timers and switches. And switches are the joints. You pop the ligament or the tendon and it stops working because you pop the thing that makes it work. Or you got the timers, which are the blood chokes, and then you got a few seconds before lights go out.
I've had injuries, of course, doing sports through the years, and I'd much rather have a broken bone than a torn ligament or muscle or something like that. It takes forever for it to heal up. It's hard to get it to heal back up. The bone seems to heal quicker than that does. We were talking, I see, what do you think the value of being able to handle yourself? I know for me, it's like you're not out there looking for trouble, but it gives you a certain feeling of confidence that I don't know how you can get any other way. When anywhere I'm in the world, I know I can handle myself. Doesn't mean, there's millions of people out there who beat the shit out of me, but in general, I know I can handle myself in any situation should it arise. So it gives me a feeling of confidence. I think, I think everybody, they would benefit by, like you said, learning jujitsu or some kind of martial arts or boxing or something, because it comes out in your attitude. And I think sometimes it may even keep people away from you. Not that you're acting cocky, but just it's a certain air that's about you. What do you think about that?
You carry when that noise gets turned down, you carry yourself better. Like you're not freaked out or shocked or you don't react to things. You're more, we always say act, don't react. Well, when you're trained in fighting, when you've been put, and it's not just trained in fighting, when you've been put in really bad positions and situations a bunch of times and you had to work your way out of them, it's going to build confidence. If you solve a bunch of math problems and you know how to do all the formulas before the test, you're going to be pretty confident when the pop quiz gets dropped on you.
Yeah.
If you do that work ahead of time, it's not even a conscious thought. You're more comfortable. You're more comfortable in your skin. You're more comfortable walking around. You don't feel nervous around new people or new guys walking in the bar, or loud people.
Yeah.
You really start to understand control in yourself because you know how and you've learned how to control other people. It's like, man, you're talking about bad positions on the ground. Yeah, like somebody sitting on your chest. You got somebody who's 60 pounds heavier than you're sitting on your chest, and you got to figure out how to get up. Right? And that's the drill. And then you get up and they put you back down there and you do that for 15 minutes. You're gonna be a lot more calm and relaxed when somebody your size gets a little mouthy.
Yeah. Well, I've never had anybody get me down like that, so I don't really know what to do when I get on the ground. So I would.
It's suffocating. It's suffocating. The first times you really like grapple and get down there, and somebody who knows how to control you and be on top of you. I tell people like jiu-jitsu is like swimming, but the water's fighting you back. The water's trying to kill you.
Yeah, that's a whole different ball game. I kind of thought about trying at UFC, but I was, of course, too old. But I couldn't imagine one of these guys slamming me down. I just seen that as maybe I get in the ring. That doesn't bother me too bad because I could take it if they knock me down, knock me out, or break a hand or something. But thinking about they can hurt you for the rest of your life. That's a brutal ass sport, I think. Much more than boxing. I don't know where it's rated as dangerous sports, but I'd say it had to be pretty high up there.
It's less sustained impact to the head than boxing.
Well, yeah.
It's not risk free. It's definitely not risk free.
Wow. Well, they say auto racing is like number 1 or something. It's in the top 10. I don't know if football is actually more dangerous than boxing is.
Well, yeah, I think the most dangerous sport is actually girls cheerleading.
Really?
Yeah, I remember that stat a long time ago when fighting was just starting out, and we needed stats to make it sound like we weren't, chicken fighting, human cockfighting, or whatever they're calling it.
Yeah. Well, I had a question. I forgot what it was now. But what do you think about the lack of fitness here in our nation? They call this some of them the snowflake generation. Why do you think we have such a soft youth growing up, and what can we do about that, or what is the deal there?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, part of it is against people's ability to stop to a point because the food that we're given is such garbage. It's absolutely, the processed crap that we're told to eat or said is all right. The FDA approved whatever crap. It's all dirty bureaucracy. And as long as the thing doesn't kill you within 20 years, it's safe to them.
Death by
You know?
guts. Yeah, yeah.
And then you add a bunch of those things together, and then people get super sick. And it's just, man, meat and eggs and milk. Like people ate that stuff for a long time, and they did pretty damn good on it.
Yeah.
A lot of I think, there's a lot of misinformation about what to eat and what's good for you. This whole plant-based garbage. Like I tried going vegan for a little while. I lost a ton of muscle mass. I got injured all the time. It was not good. It was not healthy. You may be able to survive on plants, but surviving is not thriving. You are not your optimal best self if you are only eating plants. I'm plant-based because the meat I eat eats plants.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So people are just given bad information about what to eat and what's good, and they don't really put it to trial. How many people, that pick a diet or whatever actually commit to it full on, take notes, journal, like research what they're doing, do it for a little while, see how they feel, and then try something else. Like most people just stick to one thing, half-ass it. They don't do it well, and their health never improves.
Right. Yeah, I changed my diet about 4 years ago, and I started buying more organic stuff. Hopefully it's better for you. But I started studying the food, and it's like when you start reading what's in these packages, it's discouraging to think about trying to eat healthy because it's almost impossible because
we were given all the food we need to already.
Yeah.
Like if it's new and invented recently, probably isn't what we need.
Yeah.
People
don't realize, I think, well, you talk about the health. I thought about the last few years when we had this situation, the health situation. I think they should have closed the fast food joints and opened up the gyms instead of doing the opposite. But you've seen, it's like, I think they increased our McDonald's. They used to have a single line. Now they doubled up the line. It's backed out to the highway, just backed up every night.
So that's the first part is incorrect messaging around what's healthy, what to eat, the stuff people are eating, the things, they have like canola oil and those things, the rapeseed oil, like that was supposed to be machinery lubricant, but they got better machinery lubricant. So they had something, they needed somewhere to put that. So like, let's just have people eat it.
Yeah, well, I heard like canola oil is supposed to be better than the other type oil. That's the way.
Yeah, so like you're not getting good info on that, and then you have the other aspect is that it's easier to sell to fat people. Yeah. It's easier to sell to someone and be like, "Hey, you're perfect the way you are. You just need this belt. You just need this jacket. You just need this car. You just need this thing." That's the thing you're missing. It's not your health. You're perfect. You're perfect just the way you are. Buy this, quadruple X t-shirt, fatty. You're perfect.
Well, you were a welterweight, so you know how hard it is. I mean, I weigh 155 and I fought at junior middleweight, but it's hard to find clothes for guys like me. So, when you were a welterweight, I'm sure you had a hard time maybe finding clothes sometimes because everything is large, extra, extra.
Well, when I was actually a welterweight, I'm big now. I'm like 225 right now. But when I was welterweight, I was walking around 200 pounds. Even now, it's a little bit hard to find clothes because American clothes, if you have a thick neck, if you have a big neck, 17, 18-inch neck, and you have broad shoulders, they immediately assume you're a fat guy. So like you can get a shirt that's the shoulders and neck fit, but like it's all baggy and puffy around the waist. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, when I was welterweight, I ended up buying a bunch of shirts from England because they were already fitted and they fit my shoulders and were already like fitted in. I didn't have to take them to the tailor to get extra fitted.
Yeah, I had
So
that
like,
mine tailored. Is what I did. Otherwise, they're all hanging out down there.
yeah, so like now those I'm too big for those. I can't even button those shirts now because I put on like 20 pounds. But yeah, like it can be a little bit of a struggle because they're making products and stuff for the lowest common denominator.
Yeah.
So I actually got a question. Whenever you were in the UFC, and I'm pretty sure you were highly active and everything, what was your go-to meals to stay fit, but also gain or keep the same weight?
So my diet didn't clean up, and I didn't start getting on a good meal plan until 2016 when I was with the World Series of Fighting already, and they turned into the PFL after that.
Yeah.
When I was with UFC, I was younger and I ate a lot of meat, but I also ate a lot of chips and a lot of garbage at night. And like I never missed weight, but like the losing weight process going into the fights was different and more difficult to cut the weight. I had to cut more water weight for the fights. And then I would get kind of blown up and get kind of fat in between fights. Like the 2 weeks after the fight, I'd get kind of dumpy and I would carry that weight with me until I started the next camp. But 2016, when I started on a meal plan, I worked with like a coach who does like the bodybuilding stuff, Manny Reyes. And he had coached a couple like Olympians, like bodybuilder posing people. So he came up with this meal plan for me. I changed it around like 2017, 2018 because I was having neck problems. And I had this guy, Dr. William Vandry, help me with my neck pain and changing my diet and adding supplements help with that. But like the scheduled eating became really beneficial to me because it cut out all the snacks because I'm eating every like 2.5 to 3 hours. So anytime because I would get bored and want to snack on shit, or late at night at the end of the day, I would crave sugar or sweet stuff or salty stuff or whatever, and I would eat chips or some junk before I went to bed. Before the meal plan, I was like drinking Kool-Aid all the time. I was like before I went vegan, I was drinking Kool-Aid a lot. So I was drinking a lot of eating a lot of processed stuff. So I always wonder like how much better could my UFC career have been if I would have been on a better meal plan, because once I was on the meal plan, like cutting weight became super easy. Like my weight became much easier to manage. I stayed on the meal plan year round. Like I haven't really ever taken a break off of it any longer than like a week and a half. I stay lean. I stay in great shape. It's easier for me to get back into shape fast. So it's just too many benefits. So I stick with the meal plan now. I wish I would have learned it sooner. But I eat a lot of boring meals and I eat a lot of the same stuff over and over and over again.
Yeah, I do
Like,
the same.
I'm not royalty. I don't need a 7-course meal every meal.
So I don't mean to cut you off, but so I'm 16 and I'm trying to like gain more weight for football and everything. Do you think Dirty Bulking is the wrong way to go about meal prepping and everything, or do you think just going like the regular like meat, water, stuff like that?
I say so. 2021, I took a year just to eat and lift. Right? I wanted to put on weight. I put about 20 pounds on. And yeah, like you just have to eat an insane amount of food. Like you're going to have to eat a lot. It's a workout. Like you're going to be sweating sitting at the table. On top of that, you're going to have to lift. You're going to have to lift and push yourself when you're lifting in order to put on that size. And it's going to be some dedicated time for that, I mean, like we're talking years. You're not going to be like, oh, I put on this much weight in 6 months. Like it's going to be years. Like you're 16, you should have like by the time I'm 19, this is where I want to be, right? But yeah, it's a lot of eating. Like generally speaking, I would eat about 6 ounces of my meat. But when I was trying to put on that weight, I was like at 9 ounces. So I mean, like I was eating like 8 to 12 eggs every morning, and 9 ounces of meat 3 times a day, and then I had 2 shakes a day, so I had 4 meals. That's a lot of food, and I was full all the time. I took monster shits like all the time. It was a workout. It was a workout, man. Like it. You got to think of it that way. And I thought of ever since I started the meal planning, like I think of my meal plan as a part of my workout throughout the day. It's like, okay, I got to eat this, and I'd try to eat it as fast as I could, and that way my body could have as much time as possible to break it down before the next workout. But
So
you gotta take that approach. Like you got to push yourself. You got to push yourself to consume the extra protein, but you got to do the work. You got to do resistance training to break the muscles down, because that's what you got to rebuild.
So I'm sure with like UFC and everything, you guys get breaks between any fights. And
generally, when I was at my most active, I was generally fighting about 3 times a year. That when I got cut from the UFC, that started slipping down to like once every 9 months. But 3 times a year was good. You would have 2 months to prepare for the fight, take a week or 2 off, and then a couple weeks of skill set training, and then you'd probably have another fight getting ready to go.
So would you have the same diet whenever you're about to go into a fight, or like whenever you're highly active?
Since 2016, yeah, I've just maintained the same meal plan, meal prep procedures. I just stay on it. I like it. It works. The food's good enough for me to eat. I'm allowed to have cheat meals on the weekend. Yeah, I like it.
Do you ever add more? Like what I'm trying to like get at is, so whenever you're just kind of like on your break or anything, you had that meal plan. But whenever you're highly more active and you're burning more calories, do you ever add more to your meals?
Yeah. So when I was competitive, when I was still fighting, I was allowed at one point that first time using that meal prep, Manny had me not eating just one cheat meal over the weekend. I was allowed to eat like 4 over the weekend, because my caloric output, my energy output was so high. He was fine with me eating a little extra on the weekends. Now, we were very careful to do our best job of trying to pair protein with our carb. So, we're not just eating like ice cream and some other shit. Like, we're still eating, my cheat meal is tacos. Like that's a cheat meal, because I'm adding extra carbs with it or whatever. Or, I go out and eat a nice steak with all the fixins instead of just the steak. Like that type of stuff is the cheat meal. I'm not eating like garbage. It's not Hot Pockets. Yeah. But yeah, because I had such a high output, I would eat breakfast on Saturday morning, was usually like a brunch, late brunch. I'd skip lunch, and then I'd eat another cheat meal for dinner. And I would do that, on Sunday also. So I would eat anywhere between 2 to 4 cheat meals. That was when I was in training camp and burning through tons of calories. And that would be a thing that you have to kind of adjust. I suggest when people start that meal plan, they do 3 weeks. You nail it for 3 weeks. You do it all right. No cheats. Don't miss shit. Like, suck it up. Get it done for 3 weeks. It'll get easier. You'll fall into that rhythm, and then you'll be able to start playing around with your cheat meals on the weekend.
So I just got one last question. How do you push through, like, with me, I can only consume a certain amount of food. How do you push past the limits of being full and eating more?
Eat as much as you can, and then you may have to take a break and then finish it 30 minutes later. Like there was times I did that where, I couldn't finish my eggs. So I would have to come back to eat them a little later, or I would keep the eggs and I'd throw them in on the lunch. And then I'd make sure I ate everything in the lunch. If you're having trouble eating big quantities in one sitting, you may want to it's like I'm using 6 meals. You may want to use like 8 to 10 meals in a day. And then break up
quantities.
Yeah. Break that time up. So you're only doing, at 2 hours max in between your meals, but you're only eating 4-ounce meals.
Yeah, whenever I was going to the gym at a point in time, there was a guy who walked up to me who was bodybuilding, and he said, if you're making a meal, just add just a small bit more, like a little bit more, not enough to make you full to where it hurts, but just a little bit more, add portions little by little, smaller portions, work your way up to eat bigger meals.
Yeah, it's practice. Like it took me 2 weeks, I think, to finally be able to eat 6 eggs. Now I can put down 12. No worries.
I have a hard time eating a lot, but I forgot to introduce you, John, and my mistake here. This is Claude, my son.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Henry, my son. Brado, he's a friend that comes up here, and Frank's he's back there behind the camera. He's a tech man. He's my son. So I have 5 boys and a daughter here that live with me. You were married. You're not married. You're single now, aren't you?
Single now. Well, my girlfriend is living with me.
Okay, but you were married before, and you have a couple kids, or is that correct?
A 15-year relationship, married 7.5. We have 2 children, 8 and 10. They're pretty awesome. I've had my girlfriend for over a year. She's been living with me for about 6 months, 5 months. I may put babies in her next year.
Yeah, well, I got about 9 of them, so.
10 if you count that.
I mean that, dude, it's a scam. Like modernity is a scam. It's a scam. Like, oh no, the only cool thing to live your life, the only way to live your life is to be in a big city and do all this big city garbage. Have no kids and no responsibilities and just have a cat or a dog and party and sleep with everybody your whole life. That's what it tells you to do, what everybody should be doing. Like I'm watching. My girls we were watching these terrible, dating shows.
Oh yeah.
And it's like all these people are awful people. They're just awful. And like where they put their perspective on what's important in life. So I'm going to work my ass off, alienate all my friends and family, never start a long-term relationship, never have kids in order to work a shitty job for some corporation. Let's do it. Like, I don't understand.
It's important until they start getting older and they realize what's really important, which is, to me, is the relationships, the friends, the people you meet, the journey. It took me years. It was one night I was running because I always had to be. I did triathlons and I boxed and I did marathons, and it was always about winning or placing or something. And one night I left the house here on a Saturday night. I come home from a meeting, and there were 3 boys standing out there, and I went to run, and two of them ran with me. They were teenage guys, and I thought, one of them was an athlete. I thought, this one guy's probably going to smoke me. But anyway, we ran, and one of them ended up dropping off, but we finished up, and we were talking as we went, and I thought, man, this is where it's at. That moment was just something I'll never forget, because it was unexpected. It was spontaneous. And I mean, it doesn't sound like much, but that's part of the journey. And I realized, and I'd realized before too, it's not the goal. I mean, it's great to have goals, but if you think that when you get to the goal, everything's that's just great. Well, that lasts, as you know, when you want to fight, it may last a few hours or a day or two, but that elation wears off pretty quick. If you think that's going to be the end when you make $1 million a year or get this house or this job or this girl, you're sadly mistaken, because it's about the journey. But sometimes it takes years, and maybe some people never get it. But social media pushes, well, you got to, this is what it's all about. It's getting these things, this money, this, and I'm not saying those things aren't important, but as you know,
they're fun.
Yeah, but when you look back, even yourself, sure, it's great to win, but isn't it the memories you have and the people you met and the friends you made and the fellowship? And I know there's a bond for me of the people I worked out with. I haven't seen some of them for years, but if I met them, it's almost like we were on maybe a shipwreck together, and I love to run into them again. The people that I sparred with that helped me, and I helped them, and we beat each other up. It wasn't the winning the fights. Yeah, I remember that, but it's the people that I bonded with along the way.
Yeah, 100%.
You guys got any questions?
Yeah, I got a question. Okay, so you were talking about how there's a point in time where you I don't know when it was, but you started eating 6 eggs. Have you ever tried eating eggs like raw, like just putting them in a cup and swallowing
Oh,
it?
the Rocky way.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
I mean, when I was little, I used to do that, but I've done that before. But for the most part, like I do put egg whites in my shakes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I've heard people
Just a
do
little extra added protein. I got those little cartons.
Yeah. I usually,
Carbs are good.
yeah, the egg whites are good, but usually most people eat egg whites. They don't have the
The
yolk.
yolk
'cause
really
the
doesn't have much in it.
Yeah, it doesn't have much.
But it tastes good, you
Well,
know.
I mean, I don't know. The yolk seems to have all the real nutrients and
Right.
good stuff in it.
Yeah.
I think the fertilized eggs are even the best for you. That's another big scam. I think people telling us that eggs are bad for you, and then the idea that eating vegetables are going to give you more nutrients and vitamins than animal organs. Like organ meat has way more nutrients in it than vegetables, and it's way more biodegradable, like bioabsorbable. Like your body's going to react better to beef liver than it's going to cauliflower or spinach.
Well, if you think about it, like every like barbarian back then, they lived off that stuff. They didn't live off like greens and stuff.
Yeah, the Joe Rogan's talked about it. How like when a lion and whatever, and a wolf pack, they kill an animal. Like the biggest cats, the biggest dogs there fight over who gets to eat the liver first.
Oh, that's crazy. I didn't know that. Yeah.
Like Liver King.
Right.
He loves his liver.
That was the gourmet meal. We used to go to the prison in Jeff City and fight, and then after the fight, they would feed. That was what they fed everybody, was liver. That was their gourmet meal.
I haven't tried that. I'm yet to try liver.
It's okay. I mean, I'd rather have.
Yeah, I got some chicken liver and I cut it up and I put it in my, because I use a lot of ground turkey, ground beef, because the ground stuff's started cut up small. It's already it's easier for your body to break it down.
Yeah.
So I was cutting up the chicken liver real small and cooking it in the ground beef, hopefully like to mask it. I didn't tell my sons, so they ate a bunch of chicken liver and the ground beef, and they had no idea. They're just happy that there wasn't any broccoli in the bowl.
Oh,
Have you ever tried adding like fish or some like seafood into your diet before?
Yeah, I do eat fish. I like salmon. I'm out in California, so like sushi's easy to find. But yeah, fish is good, especially if you can, catch fresh fish by yourself. I went back to visit my family this summer, and my parents live on a lake in Indiana, and I just like, this is it, man. Like this would be so much better if I could live here on the lake. I could have my own chickens. I got my own water source. I got chickens. I could have fish in the lake. I wouldn't have to go to the lake or the store that often. I could probably grow my own potatoes in a garden, and then I could go hunting in the wintertime for extra meat. But no, people get convinced that you gotta live somewhere where you can go to brunch on Sunday.
Starbucks.
Get those cappuccinos, frappuccinos. You got about 600 calories in them.
Let's wait in line for an hour to eat at the new bakery.
Yeah. Well, when you go out to eat, it's just like there's so much food on the plate. I mean, I know why people get fat if they go out and eat, because I don't go out and eat much, but when I do, it's like I end up taking half of it home. It's just so much food there. It's no wonder.
Yeah, I order extra stuff to take stuff home.
And then we have the buffets, of course. Those are popular.
We have one in town. It's like Green China Buffet or something.
Golden Walk.
Yeah,
Is that
Golden
what you're
Walk. They changed the name to it, but you can all you can eat family.
All you can eat.
Is there anything specifically you would suggest to people, like stay away from, like certain foods or?
Processed, man. The more ingredients it has, like the less it needs to stay out of your body. Stay away from chemicals you can't pronounce.
Yeah. Can you buy anything without sugar? I tell you, I got organic peas.
That's a big problem. Yeah, man. Like sugars and everything. And then, the type of salt people use, like I use pink Himalayan salt and Celtic sea salt. Like you're never going to have a problem having too much salt if you're eating the right salt. But like people get the iodized salt, the whatever, the lady with the umbrella type stuff, and that's not good for you because it's just a chemical product. It's not a natural product.
Oh, is that right? See, I didn't know that. I'm not much of a salt guy, but I use it occasionally. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
and that's pretty much all I use to season most times. Is just I use some pink Himalayan salt. I'm good. I don't need a lot of extra stuff on there.
Yeah,
lot of
I've seen
people
that.
use
Yeah,
the-
I've
the
seen a
pink
lot of people
Himalayan
use that
salt.
stuff. Yeah.
A lot of people use that. Oh, I got a question. So why is it so? Why do a lot of people eat liver? Like if all you could eat in any animal, why is it liver?
It's got you look up the nutritional like breakdown of what's in liver. It's high. There's a lot of good stuff, a lot of vitamins, a lot of minerals, a lot of healthy stuff for you, and like it maybe has something to do with like the liver is something that
Doesn't it process the most like calories and nutrients too?
it like purifies, doesn't it? Like kind of like a filter, kind of the kidneys, the liver, a little bit working together.
Yeah, the small intestines, they break it down into like juices.
Yeah, it's the kidneys and the liver. I'm pretty sure.
So yeah, it's just a powerful organ. I mean, just tasting it, like you taste, it's just different.
Yeah.
So I got a question with your career. What was your ultimate goal in the end game? Like, what were you trying to aim for? Were you trying to be like the best? Were you just trying to prove yourself right?
Well, see, that's the interesting thing is when I first started, like the sport really didn't exist. So I just wanted to like have fun and make money because, UFC had monopolized things. Pride Fighting Championships in Japan was the biggest organization at the time. Everybody who really wanted to be the best or whatever, be seen, wanted to fight over there in Japan. Like UFC wasn't as big. I didn't want to fight in the UFC. Like I didn't like the way they did business back then. I would have rather gone to Pride. They treated you like cattle there, but they treated you awesome when you were there. The belts might not have been as respected, but the fights I think were pretty great. It was a great show. So my big thing was just, I didn't want to be a teacher making $25,000 a year where I had no control over my students or curriculum, because that's kind of what I felt like going through the education process at Purdue and student teaching and all that stuff. Like I could see where the school systems were going. Like I didn't want to be a part of it. I realized that I could get my black belt, I could become competent at fighting and teaching that stuff, and I could open my own gym, or I could do things on my own without having to check for other people's approval of what I was doing or what I was teaching. And that was appealing to me. But, as things moved along, as I started fighting more, like I wanted to be the best possible fighter I could be, and if that meant that I was going to be world champion, that's what it meant. But I was just interested in leveling up as much as possible, learning as much as I could about fighting and understanding the systems and the techniques and the laws of violence that would bring you the highest probable case of winning and being successful.
Now, John, you never were one of these. I've only watched a few of your fights, but you were never one of these mouthy guys that get in there and yell things. That you weren't like that. Were you like that, or did you do that? Or
no, the only person I got mouthy to was the promoters. They didn't like that. No, because that was my thing. Is I could see what the promoters were doing. I could see what they were trying to do. They wanted to have something like boxing, but they wanted the control that pro wrestling had.
Yeah.
And you could see that. And I didn't want any part of that. And I wasn't going to help them in any part of that. I wanted fighting to be like about fighting and be respectable and be a free market. And if you were independently ranked a certain rank, then you should have the ability to fight the guy who's ranked above you.
Yeah, no, it was more in boxing usually either.
Yeah, the boxing guys has problems, but they have some fail safes that we don't have.
Yeah, it's been around, I guess.
It's been around a long time. Well, Ali Act helped a lot, with fighters being able to see what earnings are, what the money is, guaranteed title shots if you're number one contender, you're guaranteed a title shot in 12 months, or they'll strip the current champ.
Now, how long have they done that? Is that was back?
2000 is when Ali Act started.
Okay. Yeah, because I know it didn't used to be that way back when I was.
Yeah.
was going to fight.
So, and then, but there's still like money and bureaucracy and crap that screws things up. But there's at least legal actions. Like fighters can actually take a legal stance if their promoter's screwing them over, which
Yeah.
we can't do in MMA.
Huh.
And that's it's garbage. Like in boxing, a guy's allowed to own his title because there's court cases that show that guys have sued because they got released by a promoter, and then they had their rank dropped. Well, why? They can go to another promoter. They're the same fighter. They're the same value. Why should they get their rank dropped? So there's cases that show that fighters are allowed to keep their rank. And that, for example, like when I got released from the UFC, they just came up with their own internal ranking system. And in their ranking system, I was ranked 9th. Well, when I got released from the UFC, I was ranked nothing anywhere. So like, how do I argue my way into a top 10 fight with somebody if I don't have a rank anymore? Like, what's the point?
Well, 4 of my boys have started training and they're going to fight pretty soon. What advice would you have for them to, well, any advice in general, but specifically something I struggled with was the anxiety, the fear, and dealing with that before the fight. People don't realize it's almost a victory just to get in the ring. At least it was for me.
It is. I respect anybody who's willing to get in there and take a couple shots. Even if they're an idiot for doing it, they still got in there.
Takes a lot of courage.
The best thing you can do is you need to be on top of your visualization. You need to be visualizing the matches as much as possible because your mind doesn't really know the difference between reality and a deep visualization. Your heart rate will increase, your sweat, your eye pupils will dilate. All those things will happen the same as you sitting there visualizing the stuff as if you were actually living through it. So taking yourself step by step from your home to packing your bag to going to the arena to being in the back, getting your hands taped, warming up, doing your warm-up stuff, the music that's playing, the clothes you're wearing, the smells of what's going on, walking the halls, getting let out to the ring, all that stuff. And then visualize heavily through all of the fight and all the things that can go right, all the things that can go wrong. You want to force yourself to physiologically go through everything that you have to go through that night ahead of time. That way your body's like, oh, I've already done this. I've already felt this. We've already been through these things. That helps immensely. Don't just do this when you're at home alone or whatever in a quiet place. It's a good time to do that, especially if you have trouble visualizing. Like start off in a quiet place, start off in a dark place. But you should be doing this before you spar, before you train. You should be putting yourself in a situation where you got butterflies in your stomach. You feel like you might throw up even, because you're making yourself feel like you're going to for that fight. Like freak yourself out. Get scared. That way you can go through the sparring, you can go through the training, and get acclimated to that. You get acclimated to that kind of heightened physiological response to those things. And then when it happens in real life, it's not as big a deal.
Yeah, I remember whenever I used to wrestle before I would go up against someone, there'd be a match going on before me, and man, I felt like I had to use the bathroom so bad. I felt like I had to take shit, and I'd be so nervous. But as soon as you get in there and you start wrestling against a person, the feeling completely goes away.
Yep.
It's just all adrenaline at that point.
Well, you're also stepping into patterns that you're familiar with, because you've done the work in practice. You've grappled, put hands on people, you've pushed people, you're in shape. Like those things start clicking. It's not a strange thing anymore.
Yeah, I agree 100% with the visualization because that's how I overcame my fear. When I had my first pro fight, I had visualized everything, like you said, climbing in the ring, the bell, each round, and what I was doing over and over and over again. And it also helped me. And also, I see myself there relaxed because, as you know, you've probably seen guys before the fight and they're pacing. They almost wear themselves out before they get in the fight. And I was relaxed and laying there, and it makes so much difference. And also, another thing I think is very valuable is I was always in good enough shape that I could fight full steam the whole 4 or 6 rounds, whatever I fought. Because even if the guy's better than you, sometimes being in shape will win the fight.
Yeah, it's a technique. Cardio is a technique.
Yeah, it's hard to beat a man if he's in shape because he's pretty tough and pretty durable.
Yeah, the guy who won't quit, the guy who can keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's a couple times I fought a guy once and he was beating me, and you got to dig down. I've seen guys with a lot of talent, but they didn't have the heart. As soon as they got nailed a few times, they had more talent than I did, I thought. But when they got nailed a few times, they kind of wilted like a flower and they backed off. So
yeah, there's a lot of guys who don't have that killer instinct. They don't have that blood in the water type of sense.
yeah, and you got to dig in. I know my coach told me for a long time that I wasn't mean enough because I had a tendency when I got someone in trouble, I would back off. So what I did is I used the visualization, just like you talked about, seeing myself as a mean, aggressive, continuous puncher. And then thus, when I had my first pro fight, I got the guy against the ropes, and I didn't stop until the referee come in. Well, he was kind of in the ropes and stop the fight. Because if you don't, I believe it. Now, if the guy was on the floor, of course, I'm not going to hit him. But some people think you need to stop when the guy gets in trouble. But if you do,
you stop when the ref tells you to stop.
Exactly. Because I've had a guy walked out first round, knocked me down, and I got back up and beat him. So
there's a girl who almost lost to you. I mean, she could have lost the UFC fight last weekend. It was one of the undercard fights. The girl armbarred her kind of into the fence, and you couldn't see her other arm. And she tapped with the other arm. And the girl on bottom let her go. She said, "Oh yeah, she tapped." And then the ref looked at the other girl and she said, "Did you tap?" And she didn't say anything. She's like, So luckily a judge on a cage side saw the other hand and saw the tap. But in that situation, the girl who tapped, she could have sat up and started throwing elbows as soon as she let go, because the ref didn't stop it. The ref didn't see it. He didn't step in. So if the other girl would have made a decision to just keep fighting, she would have lost that fight.
Yeah, I agree. It's what they tell you, to protect yourself at all times, at least in boxing you do. Until that guy's on the floor, even if like I said, this guy was kind of hung up in the rope. He's going down through the ropes. But yeah, if you until the referee stops it, I know some spectators watching, they think, oh man, that guy's a jerk for doing that. Well, you're not the one in there. It's easy to judge. People will sit back and watch people fight. Oh, this is boring. They're not really fighting. But they're not in there. If you're not in there, you don't know. It's just, but many people judge.
I think we
lost
still hear me? Okay, I think my camera started to overheat.
So I didn't know. Yeah, but I love fighting. But the nervousness, I would say, my mistake was, I think this is motivated by fear. Nobody had to tell me to train harder. My coach would actually tell me, don't come here so much. And I was always injured. So it's
taking breaks.
I didn't fight as much as a lot of the guys because I was always hurt. But I didn't realize until looking back in retrospect, I was afraid. I was so afraid of looking bad, not losing, but looking bad, that I just had to work harder than everybody else, and they end up getting hurt all the time. These other guys didn't work. I mean, they worked hard, but I overdid it because I was running a couple miles every morning. I was cutting wood all day, and I was going to the gym every night, working out for an hour and a half, sparring 3 or 4 rounds, the bag and all that, and I was always hurt. So I never realized that. It's always hindsight is 20/20, as they say. It's just hard to see those things when you're in the middle of it. So fear is such a powerful thing. If you can overcome that, I think if there's a devil, it ought to be fear and doubt, because it destroys more dreams than anything else. But the visualization you spoke about, that's an excellent point, because I believe in that 100%. That is, if you can see yourself doing it and feel yourself, actually feel the emotions and and I'll use all your senses. It's so important. And it's funny how valuable that is, but people don't make use of that in normal life, like working.
100%. 100%.
Because that can be used in anything. And almost all athletes that have ever done anything have used that technique. But yet, is it taught in school? No, it's not.
There's plenty of research that'll show you like benefits. 100%.
Yeah, they ought to teach it in school. They ought to teach us how to use our imagination in school, but they don't do it. So
No.
I think
They kill the imagination, so they're easy to control.
yeah. Quit imagining. You're daydreaming.
Just do what you're told.
Set in a row.
Eat the bugs. Eat the bugs. Live in the pod.
Be a conformist. Yeah. I never was. I quit school.
Get the insurance.
Yeah. Well, we're going to wrap it up here, John. We appreciate you joining us here tonight. I thank you for all the valuable information, for taking time out here to chop it up with us. And
thanks for having me. It's good meeting everybody.
Yeah, why don't you tell us where we can find you again and what you.
Well, you can go. The easiest thing is to go to johnfitch.net. You can go sign up for the newsletter. I need to be much more active with those, but I send out good stuff when I do. Yeah, and I'm available. DMs. You can schedule through the website for consults, stuff like that. I got my programs on Gumroad, but you'll be able to find everything if you go to johnfitch.net.
All right, well, that's great. All right, John, thanks again for joining us, and I'll probably see you around, maybe on the Dragon ship or somewhere else. All right, take care.
Awesome. All right, thanks, guys. I'll see you around.
Well, and we're going to close it up tonight. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next Saturday night with a guest. I forgot. I think next Saturday we don't have a guest, but we will see you then. Take care.